Bubbles, we're live. Bubbles, we're live. Hey, good morning. 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. Hope you're doing well. And if you hit that like button, I'll show more pictures of the kitty. Anyway, share with your friends. Anyway, today at 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show, talk about this lock that I just got for the Railroad Museum that we're trying to build up and how this reminds me of Scrum. Something, oh yeah, it's locked and rigid, maybe, right? So we'll talk about that and how simple Scrum is today. And I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master and Agile Coach, and this is the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. Been up for a long time now. But anyway, it's good to be out. It's good to be out there and doing stuff and venturing off. And why we do this show is to help you and teams and everyone about work in a way that you can get home to family and friends, bring value to the customer, not work crazy hours, and be as productive as you can without going insane. So that's why we're doing this show. And why we use Scrum. We talk a lot about Scrum because part of that, I think Scrum helps you do that in a way that's relatively simple, but sometimes simple is difficult. So we're going to talk about that today. And again, if you give us the click button, I'll bring more kitties. That's Bubbles. Oh, Bubbles. Bubbles like, oh, I want to be on the show today. So she was like, do a show. So I'm doing a show. All right. So what is up with this lock? So my son is fascinated by locks. But two, wanted to get some different locks. I have some more modern locks for locking stuff. One of the tags. This is like a switch lock. Sometimes they probably also use the lock, probably have one key that locks all the storage containers or the shipping cars, the rail cars. Probably a good idea to have one lock with one type of key so you can just walk down and unlock all the locks and let the stuff go through. Also for switches, so that people wouldn't accidentally switch the lock by accident or do something. So why did I say this lock reminds me of it? It's very rigid. Scrum is very rigid. It has these things, four events that you have to do: your sprint planning, your daily Scrum, your sprint review, and the retrospective. Boy, that's a lot. That's hard, isn't it? Just 4. That's what Scrum is, right? And then you have three role personalities in it: the product owner, Scrum Master, and the development team, which I really do believe. Every day I look at it, I wish they would have called it creators and not developers. I like the term creators because then that includes like business analysts, testers, people that do some specialized stuff that's what they're good at on the Scrum team that all contribute. Even the product owner, right? They're all creators. What's a creator? I think I like that term much better than developers because to be honest with you, I think it could, but we'll talk about that. I think we had a show on that. We'll talk about that. But why this lock? So what I find interesting is that this lock will lock in place, right? So it's locked. Okay, so it's now locked pretty good. And this is like a 60-year-old lock, probably 1960s or so. Not as old as I would like. I'd like to get a really old one for the museum, but it's talking about the history. Maybe we'll get some older ones and look into the history of these locks. So it's locked. Now, unlike the new keys, now this is going to be pretty tough because I haven't put any WD-40 or some graphite in here to make it run a lot better. I got to put some graphite in there. But if I turn it, it unlocks, right? But if I keep turning it, it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't really do anything. So, but all I have to do is turn it once and do it. And then once I lock it, I can turn it again. There you go. I think I broke it. Maybe I broke it. Oh, I didn't put it all the way in. So now it's already in. So it doesn't work if it's not all the way in. But there you go. Right? So I got to push it all the way in. And then it's just a simple turn. Kind of this clock reminded me of the shape of what they draw for Scrum. So in Scrum, I got the little trusty whiteboard out. So the old 60-year clock needs to be taken care of a few times too, instead of the Scrum team, by the way. So in Scrum, they always draw the circle. They have the circle where line coming in, where work's coming in. The team's working on thing. There's a little mini circle, which is the daily Scrum. And they have the big Scrum, which is a big circle. This is actually the sprint, right? And this is your your sprint review up front. Sprint planning, excuse me. Sprint planning in the very bottom left corner of the circle. And you have the circle, and then there's a little baby circle. Sometimes I draw little smiley faces. Woohoo! On top, right? And then at the end, you have your sprint review. Which you show off your wares and you do the big fair. And then you come back with the sprint trail. And then this all goes back into the cycle, feeds back into your sprint planning for the next sprint. Ideally, these two things happen before your sprint planning. But I saw this lock. It's very simple. It may be rigid. There's 4 events, 1, 2, 3, 4 events. Very rigid in how it's done, but very simple. Just like the lock. There wasn't any, let's go back on the circle and the lock. It's always a going forward. That's what the thing that really got me. When I worked that old lock that opens up the mind, that opens up what's the treasures inside that are locked in the lock, reminded me of a scrum, a sprint. Very simple, right? Where it's a simple, always going forward, never really worrying about going back. I have so many people always ask me about doing stuff in the back. It's like, who cares what happened in the past? Yeah, there's some stuff, but you don't need going updating all your back data. So if you look at, again, here's the lock. I'm going to lock it. There it goes. And then I'm going to turn the key and it unlocks, right? Very simple. And then I can keep turning. It doesn't do anything because the thing's not locked. So I lock it again. Very locked. Turn the key and it's unlocked. Very simple. Always going forward. The key never goes backwards. Like new keys, new locks, you kind of go backwards. You ever notice, like, if you want to unlock it, you have to go back and forth. These old locks just go one way. They eliminated this whole backwards motion thing. You just keep going the same way. You never look back at where you were. So I locked it. I just turn the key forward and it pops it loose. It's always forward, never back. So it's very simple. That's where I wanted to. So I wanted to share that with you. Just a different observation that when I saw this lock and I was playing with it and I noticed that, it just reminded me of a sprint or a scrum team. They always go forward. They never worry about going back and doing stuff because, one, that could be a definition done story, right? We can talk about that another day. But it's always, I'll get back close, lock. It's always going forward. The key never goes backwards. It's always going forward. Never looks back. And that's how simple Scrum is. So I wanted to share that with you. Too many people try to make it too complicated, too crazy, right, Bubs? But that's it. So with that, I want to wish you a happy day. Happy Scrumming. Have a pleasant day, and may you have a safe day. And we'll see you next time when we come on the air. We're getting closer to going back to every day. So we're getting back to that. Take care and take care. Have a happy Scrumming day, right, Bubbles? Oh, do you want to do a cat thing? Oh, Lee's sleeping. I just woke her up. Take care. Bye.